Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday. Also, happy Financial Literacy Month. That is April. Of course, every month is Financial Literacy Month on Your Money Story, but we're putting an extra push in on it and bringing even more interesting conversations with some of the top personal finance influencers that you love and see every day on IG. I'm Renita Young. And today we're going to talk about a term that I've been hearing a lot about over the past couple of years. Equity is the new black. What do people mean when they say that? Equity in life, equity in their career, and how can they truly make this a thing in their life? How can they make the best of it? Well, I have a great guest to come on and talk about that. I'm talking about Anthony Copeman. He is the Chief Visionary and CEO of Financial Lituation. He's from Harlem World, but he's in Philadelphia right now. And he's also a certified financial education instructor who I'm going to invite on right now. Give me a moment so that I can bring him here. I see some folks joining in that I haven't seen in a while. Thank you so much for being here. Aaron, hi. And Marissa, I see Chanel Oliver. So right now I'm bringing on Anthony Copeman. And so he's got projects that he's been working on. One of them is Shares TV. Hey, Anthony, how are you?
How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking some time out of your workday to come in. And I was just telling the folks a little bit about Shares TV. That's the first time I learned about you, right?
Oh, wow. Wow.
So we're going to get into that a little bit later, but we're talking about this term, equity is the new black, and how a lot of people started saying it a lot more over the past couple of years. Everything was the new black over the past couple of years, quite honestly. And so first, what we always start with is your own money story. Now, I told the folks that you grew up in Harlem World, you're now in Philadelphia, but how was your relationship with money growing up?
Yes, so my relationship with money started off pretty early. I was raised in a household that, despite where I lived, they really exposed me to other areas of life. And my grandmother was that influential figure to help me learn, or inquire more about money, right? She was the person who opened a joint savings account for me at a credit union. She used to work for the United Nations, and so she opened that joint savings account for me at the United Nations Federal Credit Union. And I just remember just taking trips with her, to the credit union around 42nd Street in New York City, and just being enamored by, the atmosphere and just the interaction between, customers and, the membership service representatives and bank tellers. So I just wanted to learn more about money. So as I got older, I wanted to shift the focus from being, money curious to being money confident, right? And learn more about me as a person, as it relates to money and money in of itself.
I like that. Props to grandma for exposing you to that in a very early stage of your life. A lot of people who come on Your Money Story do not have that story. So that is excellent. But one of the things that you always talk about is that you believe wealth manifests in your mind before it's presented in the form of money. Correct. And so is that part of how wealth manifested in your life?
Correct. So it's all about, for me, growing up, it's all about how I've thought about money, right? Removing not totally removing, but removing a part of the environment in which I grew up in, but also realizing that there is more to this money story than what I see, right? Understanding that I can be exposed to different avenues and different literature and information that will help me not only regurgitate, my surroundings, but expose me to various of different things to help me invest for the long term and save for my goals and things of that nature.
So how old were you when you decided to take this on? on your own?
Yes.
When you gained your own responsibility for your own, financial education?
I would say it started when I graduated from high school. So I remember before I left to go attend Temple University in Philadelphia, my grandmother asked me, she said, now you're going away to a different state, a different city. You're going to need a bank account, with a financial institution outside of the credit union.
Hmm.
And I remember she told me which bank to, she didn't really tell me which bank to choose, but do my own research and decide on my own. And so from that point on, I just began to do a little bit more research and ways I can expand my knowledge on money, right? Different ways I can save for my goals. And then as I got older, once I graduated college, I began to take investing seriously and take equity seriously as well, and
Hmm.
realize that it's not just about the day to day, but it's about building, long term wealth.
Absolutely. And so equity is actually what we're here to talk about, right? Equity is the new black. Right off the top, what does that mean to you?
Yes, for me, it's a new awakening, right? To me, it's a new day where we, as a culture, exercise that ownership within us, right? It's so easy if you live in New York City, if you live in LA, if you live in San Francisco, as soon as you walk outside, we don't really have to exercise the consumer in us, right? It would just come, because as soon as we walk outside, we're going to spend, 50, $100 just by being influenced by the atmosphere. But it takes a little
Hmm.
bit more
Or
work,
like in New York,
right?
just by breathing, just by breathing.
Exactly, just by breathing. It's $100 just to breathe, just to walk outside and breathe,
Just to
right?
breathe.
And so, yeah, it takes a little bit more work to really connect with the owner within us, right? To connect to the long-term building and why we do it, right? Just not for us, but for generations after us. And so I feel
Hmm.
like equity has no choice but to be the new black. If you look at the numbers, we have been historically disproportionately affected, um, you know, throughout generations, right? By
Hmm.
2053, a report states that, the wealth for African Americans will be at zero, right? And right now, currently, white
Mm.
households, right, has 10 times more wealth than a black household, right? So it's important for us to just have that ownership and exercise that, ownership within.
And I think what a lot of people don't understand either, there's the debate going on about student loan debt. And we did learn yesterday that the student loan moratorium on federal student loan payments is expected to be extended through August 31st. We learned that yesterday. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, likely because of the student loan debt crisis, a lot of Black folks and people of color have negative net worth in the hundreds of thousands because of student loan debt. Like, that's what I try to get people to understand often, that it's not uncommon for people to have six-figure student loan debt. That is not an anomaly. And so we're hoping that our conversation on equity can help people understand the importance of ownership so that they can pay off that debt, right? And that they could have something to pass down to their later generations, and maybe something they could pass back to their older generations. That's why I like that you say intergenerational wealth instead of generational wealth. But so when we talk about what equity looks like, you kind of shared what it looks like in life. Talk about what equity looks like in your career.
Yes, definitely. So depends depending on where you are in your life or in your career, rather, if you work for a public company or a private company, you can possibly receive equity, right? So let's start with a public company. If you work for a public company, they may offer you, three, forms of equity. The first one may be restricted stock units, right?
Mhm.
Where you are offered um, a set of units which vest over time. Investing means you have the right to exercise or sell those shares, or they will convert into shares for you um, at a certain time, right? So, say a company may offer you five, restricted stock units a year. Those units will turn into shares for you and then enter into your brokerage account at some point, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's something you really may not have to negotiate because that company may offer it to you. Now, there's another form of equity called the employee stock purchase plan. Now,
Okay.
that is something where you have to actually, buy into, right? And you will receive stock or shares at a discount, right? So it may be 5% um, of that current stock price, right? You can buy into, right? And you will buy into that every quarter, and then once the quarter is over, those shares will then into your brokerage account. And then you may also be offered stock options, right? And
Mm-hmm.
stock options are normally given by startups, whether it be small, relatively new startups, or
Okay.
more large and rich startups, and that's an opportunity for you to gain some equity as well.
Absolutely. And so I want people to know that we're talking about you can ask for these things while you're negotiating for a new job,
Mhm.
and possibly for a raise. Am I right?
Correct. Yes, definitely. I would definitely suggest, and let me say this, it depends on who you are as a person. Now, even though I'm advocating that you do this at your employer or at your soon-to-be employer, you have to know what type of risk you are willing to take, right? Especially if you work for a startup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because down the line, the startup may not, work out, right? So that those equity shares may not be best for you if you are sort of risk adverse, right? So you have to know what type of risk, type of person you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it all boils down to that.
Absolutely. So know the risk that you're willing to take on. That's like the precursor to asking about this. And of course, Anthony has a lot of tools where he can help you understand it a lot better. And so I want to ask another couple of questions for you. There's another side of this. Now, you say that equity, it's something that you can pass down. Explain to people how you can pass down your equity shares in your company beyond just you.
Yes. So we talked about equity in life and equity in your career, right? So there are many ways that you can pass down equity. Now, equity is not just in the form of stock or shares. Equity can be in the form of passing down a investment property. Equity can be in the form of passing down a single family home. Equity can be in the form of passing down or having a trust, right? That is in the beneficiary's name, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you want to leave, something to. Equity can be in the form of passing down, um, you know, life insurance, right? Because life insurance shouldn't just be to cover, you know, when you pass away, but it should also cover, the expenses or the loss for those that you are trying to pass things down to as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are many forms of ways you can pass down equity, starting investing in your 401k at work, or if your job doesn't offer one, you can definitely invest through an IRA or a Roth IRA. So there are various tools to use to pass down that equity to others.
Okay, this is great. Great. Folks, I hope if you just joined, a lot of people just joined, make sure you go back and watch this conversation because Anthony Copeman, he is the chief visionary and CEO of Financial Lituation, and he's telling us why equity is the new black and how you can get yourself some equity, not just with real estate or with individual stocks, but also on your job. And so we're almost coming to a close here, but you teach a lot of these concepts in your equity bundle that you just recently re-released. So tell us what people can expect to learn in it.
Yes, so I'm releasing soon, within the week, the equity bundle, which includes courses such as why equity is important for you. Also, if you are just starting a new job, how you can utilize um, your income to actually build intergenerational wealth, as
Mm-hmm.
well as invest in the companies that you shop and love and patron every single day. So I have those courses coming out pretty soon. Within a week or so, they should be releasing on my Instagram page. So check out that. It should be exciting.
Okay, that'll be exciting. And then also, you have a brand, Equity is the New
Yes.
Black. First of all, props on getting that handle, right? I expect for it to blow up at some point soon, like really. But
Definitely.
tell us about the brand.
Yes. So I started the brand because I wanted to, shine a light on ownership, right? It's deeper than owning just assets and stocks and real estate, but owning our story, right? Owning our history with money, right? Not being seduced by our past mistakes and our past failures, but just taking ownership and moving forward and understanding that, a failure, just because you fall doesn't mean you're a failure, right? And so
Mhm.
it's time for us to awaken and energize the ownership within us so we can live the life that we were created to live and help others do the same.
Anthony, I could not agree more. It's time for us to start acting like owners and not consumers.
Exactly.
And I really appreciate you for joining me, folks. If you have any questions and you want to learn more about Anthony's equity bundle, go head on over to the Financial Lituation page. And also, if you want to learn about Equity is the New Black, you can go over to at Equity is the New Black. So thank you so much for joining me, Anthony. I hope you have a fabulous day out there in Philly. All right.
Same. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a good one, folks.